Hey guys, make sure to like and subscribe, any support from y'all is appreciated. If you want me to post a specific manga or novel, leave a comment and I'll try my best. If the video is too fast or slow for your liking, then you can adjust it in the right corner of the video. My current goal is to hit 500 subscribers. Sota looked down at Madan, who was gasping for air. It seems that the Vajra sword Saya broke him down. He noticed that veins were popping out of Madan and blood was flowing out of his eyes. You don't have a system like me that could use the equipment skill of weapon as soon as I wield it. You don't have any idea that you activate the possession skill of the Vajra sword. Sota thought while looking at Madan's pitiful appearance. I won't let you suffer anymore, Sota said in a cold tone as he slowly raised his sword. I don't want to die, Madan muttered as he gripped something from his chest. It was a pendant that has a picture of his family. He recalled the face of his wife, daughter, and his 2-year-old son. He didn't think that this would become his last mission. Claire, Cindy, Romy, I'm sore. He didn't even manage to finish his sentence as Sota swung his sword. Fuchi. Madan's head flew in the midair and it splattered blood on the ground. Ding. You've received 4,613 XP for defeating Elite Knight Madan. Sota sighed when he heard the system prompt in his head. When Madan said the name of his family members, Sota hesitated for a moment there. I just hope that you don't confront me in your next life, Sota muttered to himself. He was going to take down everyone that blocked his path, and there's no exception to it, even if you have families or not. Sota wasn't an entirely evil person. Even he still has humanity in his heart. Even if it's just a little amount of kindness, Sota treated a few selected individuals with affection. Well, that individuals can be counted in both hands. Yuko. Who else? I think I will include class rep next to Yuko. Sota thought as he looked at his hands. He then shook his head and put those unnecessary thoughts in the back of his mind. He crouched down and grabbed the pendant on Madan's neck before he yanked it off. If I met your family, then I will give them a special service of mine. If they're lacking money, then I'll give it to them, Sota said to Madan's corpse before he turned around. He recalled the quest that he received in the desolate woods. He still has to complete, but he doesn't have any idea where he would start in this huge continent. He saw that Yuko managed to defeat the 2 elite knights because of shock when they saw how Sota killed Madan. She received a few injuries on her body while she was fighting the 2 elite knights. The remaining 2 elite knights were looking at Madan's headless body with widened eyes. They couldn't believe what happened before their very own eyes. After a few moments, both of their mana burst out of their bodies as they recklessly charged towards Sota. Ah! I'll kill you! They screamed at the top of their lungs. They waved their swords at Sota, aiming to slice his neck. Too predictable. You think that you would be able to kill me when you're just charging at me without any sort of plan, Sota said to the 2 elite knights while closely avoiding all of their attacks. The 2 knights let their emotion overcome them and they recklessly waved their sword at him. They didn't have any proper form, so how would they caught Sota in that situation? Sota sighed when he saw them didn't listen to his words. The Vajra sword in his hand emitted a red light. Sota moved his body forward while dodging the attacks of the 2 elite knights before he waved his sword. Crimson Moon. The heads of the 2 elite knights flew in the midair before it landed on the ground with a loud sound. Normally, 2 elite knights would be hard to kill at his current level, but they lost their composure, so Sota managed to kill them easily. Ding. You've received 3,507 XP for defeating an elite knight. You've received 3,289 XP for defeating an elite knight. Sota looked down and examined his body. He didn't receive any grave injuries, so he could fight another big battle. Yuko approached Sota and lowered her head in front of him. Sota looked at her and he lifted up his palm. He then placed it on her forehead and used Light Heal to close the cuts that she received. He thought that he should try to get the spell that would let him heal himself. An advanced version of Light Heal. If he wasn't wrong, he remembered that the top 5 ranker Eileen Carnane used this spell. I will try to get it in the Institute, Sota muttered. Then he shifted his attention and looked at the elite knights of the Osphairs family. These knights backed down when he said that Lumilia left the mansion on her own. They also simply watched him kill the elite knights of the Vedredo family. He doesn't know if they have any plans, but at this time, he heard a familiar sound in his mind. Ding. Quest 2 complete. You've received 20,000 XP, 7 free attribute points, and 5 skill points. You've leveled up. Strength attributes have increased by 15. Agility, dexterity, intelligence, and vitality attributes have increased by 10. You've received 2 free attribute points. You've received 1 skill point. Sota nodded in satisfaction when he saw that he leveled up when he received the rewards from the quest. He finished this quest without receiving heavy injuries and he was glad at that. Before, when he triggered a quest with 5 skill points as a reward, it was a quest to snatch the mystical light cherry. That quest was hard because of the monster that was guarding the cherry, but it was killed by the commandments. To think that the appearance of a commandments would raise the rewards of the quest. If it was a quest to escape from the commandments, then the rewards would be more than 20 skill points. But it was a different matter if it was a quest to defeat the commandments. Quest 3 unlocked. Lumilia. Quest 3, don't let the knights capture Lumilia. Protect her at all costs until you leave the city. Time limit, 30 minutes, rewards, 25,000 exp, 10 free attribute points, and 7 skill points. Note, if Lumilia didn't manage to leave the city within the time limit, you will fail the quest as the city guards will intervene. Soda carefully read the quest that he received this time. 7 skill points? He thought this quest would become the hardest quest that he triggered. There's also a note in time limit, so it means that either the Osphairs family or Vedredo family will make a large-scale move to stop Lumilia from leaving this city. Also, it means that Tider and Tim finish their task in getting a carriage. I need to go to Lumilia as soon as possible. Soda muttered as he looked up and saw the knights of the Osphairs family looking at him. But he felt something wrong around him. He heard Yuko growled beside him. So he looked around and saw dozens of knights arrived at the scene. The group of knights consists of elite knights and ordinary knights. Their number exceeded 50 people. 30 of it were just ordinary knights while the rest were elite knights. To think that man would send out this force, Soda said as he smiled wryly. He saw that the crest on the chest part of the armor was the crest of the Vedredo family. It seems that Gregory really hated him to send this much force. Get ready, Yuko. We're going to break through and go to class rep. Soda said as he took out a blue bottle from his pocket. He removed the bottle cap and drank the mana potion to restore some of his mana. He then took out a red bottle. He also drank it like the mana potion. This red potion was a health potion that could recover his health points. Oh. Soda exhaled as he felt a warm feeling inside his body. The cuts on his body were closing rapidly until he felt that all the small cuts on his body were gone. Okay, I'm ready to fight another battle. Soda smirked and tightly gripped the Vajra sword in his hand. He observed the knights and his mana flared up. The knights were looking at Soda and then they made away as a middle-aged man with long blue hair stepped forward. He was exuding a fierce aura of a veteran fighter that experienced countless battles. The knights of the Osphairs family bowed their heads when they saw the middle-aged man. My lord. All of them said at the same time. My lord? Soda thought, then he realized who this man. Don't tell me. He didn't think at all that this man would appear before him. Why the hell is Lumilia's father here? Soda thought as he tightened his guard and observed Ursus's movements. GRR. Yuko growled at Ursus as her instinct was telling her that Ursus was a very dangerous person. She walked in front of Soda and looked at Ursus with an angry expression. Soda patted Yuko's head and told her that it was fine. She didn't have to protect him. Soda then looked at Ursus and said, I'm sorry to tell you that class rep is not here. Ursus simply looked at him and didn't say anything to him. Soda felt like he was a prey standing in front of a top predator and that said predator was looking at him. He felt being oppressed just by standing in front of Ursus von Osphairs, the man who managed to get a crystal flame honey from the powerful monster. Soda knew the locations where the honey can be found. The closest to this kingdom was the mountain between Hebre Kingdom and Zama's country. The monsters that could produce the crystal flame honey were the Colossus burning bees. These monsters were already at 3rd evolution, which means that their level was above level 40. To think that Ursus managed to snatch a bottle of honey from more than 100 bees means that he was above level 60. He was a man that could go toe-to-toe with a monster that undergoes 4th evolution, such as the queen bee of the Colossus burning bees. But it's only Soda's speculation, as there's a possibility that Ursus was stronger. The difference in power is too large. Buff spell and combat arts are no use. Soda thought. It was at this time that Ursus opened his mouth and said, I already know where my daughter is and my knights are already on their way to surround the inn. Soda was stunned when he heard those words. If that's really the case, then he should hurry up and go to Lumilia to prevent the knights from capturing her. Then, why are you here? Do you want to fight me, a junior? Soda asked and thought that Ursus would personally capture him. No, you're 10 years early to fight me. You're not at my level. Ursus shook his head. Oh? 10 years. I've played the Battle Worlds online for 10 years and become one of the commanders of the mechanic country. I could easily defeat a single noble head like you when I'm blood. Soda thought, and he felt amused at what Ursus said. Right now, he doesn't have a level cap, so he was sure that he would get stronger than blood within just a few years of time. He doesn't need 10 years at all. Ursus once again opened his mouth and said, I won't fight you as I don't want that enormous institute to chase me. I came here because I wanted to see the power of the strongest first-year student of that institute. After all, my daughter praised you a lot. Soda already knew it. Lumilia said that she revealed that he was a top student of the Ladro Institute to Gregory and her father to prevent Gregory from taking revenge. He then looked at the dead bodies of the elite knights around Soda and added, "I've visited that institute a few times ago, and from what I saw that you're really the strongest first-year students, as you're clearly stronger than you're the previous batch but not the current top one. It seems that you're just here to watch me defeat these knights." Soda smirked and said as he looked at the knights of the Vedredo family. He was only joking, as he knew that with his current power it was impossible to defeat all these knights and elite knights. "That's impossible, just let yourself be captured so that you wouldn't experience hardship," Ursus said as he looked at Soda. "Boy, did you know that defeating them and escaping from them is a different matter? So did you really think that they will manage to capture me?" Soda said with a smile. He knew the truth that even escaping from the elite knights of Vedredo family was hard for him. Against this much number, it was hard to escape, much more defeating them. Then, a man with a terrifying aura stepped forward. He was holding a sword and looked at Soda with rage. "You, how dare you kill my junior?" he said as his face contorted in anger. He was also a direct subordinate of Gregory. The 5 of Gregory's subordinates came here in this city with Gregory, and one of them died while chasing one adventurer. His name was Aldine Gropus, a powerful knight of the Vedredo family. He was a tall man with short brown hair and black eyes. He had a scar on his left cheek that made his appearance look fierce. He couldn't take it all. He wanted to rip Soda apart. Right now, he was with Foud, one of the direct subordinates, to capture Soda. Foud was a man with average height. He had a lazy look on his face. He had black cat ears and tails. He stepped forward and stood beside Aldine. He looked at Soda with those lazy eyes. "Are they the leader of this squad?" Soda wondered while looking at these two knights. Aldine and Foud then released their energy with a powerful momentum that shook the ground beneath them. Boom! A huge gust of wind swept out and it blew the dust in the area around them. "This?" Soda opened his eyes widely when the two direct subordinates released their aura. These two auras were clearly stronger than Madan. This made the escape more difficult. "That's why I said that you wouldn't be able to escape," Ursus said as he turned around and started to walk away. He was going to where his daughter. "I don't have any choice but to use this," Soda said as he took out a bottle with orange liquid from his pocket. The smile on his face vanished and it was replaced by a cold expression. "Yuko, I will handle them. You can watch me on the sideline," Soda said as he patted Yuko on top of her head. Yuko looked at him with a worried expression before she followed his order. She stood behind him as watched her owner took the cap of the bottle. Tack! Soda threw the bottle cap on the side and he took a deep breath. Aldine wanted to rush towards Soda but Foud grabbed his wrist. He looked at Foud and asked, "Why?" Foud shook his head and said, "My instinct as a cat person is telling not to approach that man. You will be in trouble if you approached him carelessly." "You're right, he's the one who killed Madan after all." Aldine nodded his head. He took a deep breath to calm himself and he started to activate all the combat arts that could increase his power. Power Strike, Piercing Reduction, Reinforce Recovery, Knight's Will, Body Power ×3. Foud looked at Aldine who was preparing himself and shook his head. He looked at Ursus and asked, "Lord Ursus, can I ask something before you leave?" Ursus turned around and looked at Foud. "Tell me." Foud glanced at Soda and asked, "Lord Ursus, do you have any idea what that potion is?" Ursus squinted his eyes and looked at the potion in Soda's hand. "Orange liquid? I can't think of any potion that possessed that color, but I have a bad feeling about this," Ursus said. Then something came into his mind. "In this era, there's no current orange potion, but in the last, don't tell me. It seems that you've guessed it correctly. This is a monster potion that I've found in an underground base," Soda said as he drank the orange liquid from the small bottle. This was the monster potion that Soda found in the underground base when he was completing the quest to acquire the dark-grade weapon, Vajra Sword Saya. Boom! The ground shook as Aldine charged towards Soda at a very fast speed. He opened his palm and tried to grab Soda's face. Aldine's speed was so fast that he covered a distance of 50 meters in an instant. Soda lifted up his head and looked at Aldine in the eyes, who was just an inch closer to him. Suddenly, something exploded from inside Soda's body. A huge powerful energy came inside his body and it swept out the whole area. Boom! It was a powerful burst of energy and it pushed Aldine away from Soda. The energy became so dense that everyone could see it with their own eyes. The mana that Soda was emitting was really terrifying. Its bluish color slowly turned into a blood-red color. The atmosphere became heavy as everyone felt the pressure in the air. A legendary potion from 1,000 years ago that could let the user borrow the monster's special energy. The monster potion from the legend, Ursus said while looking at Soda. "But do you really think that there's no side effect in using that kind of potion? What the hell is this?" Aldine was shocked when he saw this. Not just him, everyone was feeling the same as his. "A potion from legends," Foud muttered when he heard Ursus' words. "Argh. Soda screamed as he started to emit the beast energy around his body. The beast or best Ferrum was contradicting the mana inside his body and it was extremely painful for Soda. Ding! Converting mana into beast energy. Processing. Damn. It hurts. Soda screamed at the top of his lungs. His veins were popping on his forehead and neck. He didn't hear the system prompts that rung in his head. It felt like someone was eating him from the inside. Blood started to flow down from his mouth. Soda then felt a burning sensation inside his body. It became too hot that he felt that he was inside a huge oven. The excruciating pain that he felt from converting his mana was unbearable. In the end, the mana inside his body disappeared and it was replaced by a berserk beast energy. With a powerful wave, Soda's body exerted an energy wave in the surrounding area as it successfully converted all the mana inside his body. Processing complete. All abilities have increased drastically. Attack power has increased by 3 times. Every spell will use best Ferrum and it will multiply the spell power by 3. Soda heard several system prompts inside his head. He ignored it and looked at the knights who were looking at him with a nervous expression. He looked down at his hand and saw a reddish energy around it. He opened and closed his palm to get himself familiarized with the beast energy. The beast energy was hard to control, unlike mana that originates from nature. Ursus looked at Soda and said, "If you think that this enough, then you're underestimating Gregory." Soda looked at Ursus when he heard him say something. Soda responded by saying, "You shouldn't worry about that. I will handle him when the time comes." Ursus hummed before he turned around and said, "Let's go." "Yes, my lord." The knights of the Osver's family nodded their heads. They followed Ursus from behind. Ursus and his knights left, leaving the group of knights of the Vedredo family on the site. Shit. Why the hell did he have that kind of potion? Aldine grunted as he wiped the sweat forming on his forehead. Foud, the most logical one, took out a piece of yellow paper from his pocket. It was the talisman for long-distance communication, the transmission talisman. He poured his mana in it and the talisman emitted a dim yellow light. "What is it?" Gregory's voice sounded. "My lord, the target Soda Ayashi showed a legendary potion that gives him the strength of the monster." Foud reported what happened here to his lord. "What?" Gregory was surprised when he heard Foud's words. "Ursus is there? And he's the one who verified the authenticity of the potion." "Yes, my lord." Lord Ursus appeared here and he left the target alone. "Right now, we're going to engage the target in combat," Foud said while observing Soda's movements. "Right now, just how powerful is that brat?" Gregory asked. Just by the aura alone, he's as strong as a monster that has a monster orb." Foud reported Soda's power level based on his observation. "Level of evolution?" Gregory asked a simple question. "Third evolution," Foud replied after comparing Soda's aura to the monsters that he saw before. "If that's the case then you and Aldine are not enough to defeat him." Gregory paused for a moment then added, "Call the other knights that I tasked to capture the other adventurers. I'll prevent Lumilia from leaving the city." "I understand. I don't think we'll be able to hold him that long with our current strength," Foud replied to Gregory. "That's enough. The effect of that potion wouldn't last that long. If you can't handle him then I'll personally take care of him after I secure Lumilia," Gregory assured Foud. "I understand, my lord. I'm going to cut the transmission now," Foud said as he saw that Soda was looking at him. "Precisely, the talisman that he was holding." Soda looked at Foud and said, That's a transmission talisman. This type of talisman was useless to players as the system have a message and call function, so the players didn't need the talisman to communicate with each other. "I'll take that," Soda said as he disappeared from his position. Swoosh. Foud was surprised when he couldn't follow Soda's movements with his eyes. "Brace yourself, we're going to hold this man," he shouted and he felt something behind him. He followed his instinct and he crouched down. Swoosh. A sword passed above him and it produced a powerful shockwave. Boom. Foud looked back and he rolled his body to the side. "This guy, he's planning to kill me with that strike," he said in his mind and he took out his sword. "Oh? That's good." Soda praised Foud for dodging his attack. A powerful and dense beast energy covered the whole area around the knights. Boom. It suppressed the weaker energy like mana, so the knights who have low control over their mana would be able to use it properly. Arg. The heck with this, you're stronger than a monster that formed a monster orb recently. Is that really the power of the legendary potion? Foud cursed while looking at Soda. He gripped his sword and a white light covered his sword. Wind slash. He slashed his sword and a wind blade flew out. Swoosh. The blade went straight to Soda but a tentacle-like shadow sprouted on the ground. It blocked the skill easily. "Attack him," Aldine shouted and he dashed towards Soda. He used every power that he had to launch a powerful punch. The other knights didn't stay idle as all of them launched their skills at Soda. Several shadows rose up from the ground and it covered Soda's body like a cocoon. It protected him from the skills of the knights. Soda heard several loud sounds as the skills of the knights landed on the shadows around him. He opened his palm and casted, Shadow Bind, spell. Ohm. The whole ground turned black and it spread 100 meters diameter with Soda as the center. The knights stopped firing their skills as they saw more than 100 tentacles like shadows slowly rose up from the ground. What the hell? Fowd muttered while looking at this scene. The ordinary knights lost their will to fight when they saw this. They subconsciously loosened their grip on their swords. One by one it fell on the black ground, causing a metallic sound to echo in the whole area. Clang! 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 Fear slowly seeped in their hearts and it consumed their will to fight. This is many times stronger than before. We're all going to die. They muttered to themselves while looking at the towering shadows around them. The shadows extended up to 20 meters in height and its thickness was 3 meters to the root, and it gradually thinned down to the tips of the shadows. Within the 100 meters diameter black ground, more than 100 huge shadows rose up. Each one of these shadows possessed terrifying strength that could easily crush the knights. This is the power of the Shadow Bind spell when you use beast energy instead of mana. The only problem is that it's harder to control. Soda muttered to himself. The beast energy was a dominant and berserk energy. That's why it could suppress the calm and peaceful mana. But not anyone could control this powerful energy. Only the monsters have the strength to control this. In the past, a lot of humans and demis attempted to use the beast energy and a lot of them failed to do so. But not all of them failed. The result of their attempts was the monster potions and the use of some technology using beast energy. The energy that the whole city used was coming from monster orbs. It was also the fruits of countless experiments of humans and demis in the past. They succeeded in transferring the beast energy in the body of humans and demis using the potions, but there were a lot of problems. The bodies of humans and demis weren't compatible to the power of beast energy. The beast energy was trying to destroy the mana pool of the person that consumed the monster potion. That's why the side effect of this potion was that the consumer of the potion will permanently lose a portion of his mana pool. But that's okay for Soda as he was a monster in the first place. It's just that his current form couldn't handle the power of the beast energy. Second evolution monster didn't have enough strength to fully control it. The shadows opened and he peeked outside. Soda grinned and controlled the shadows. All the shadows stopped moving and it went straight to the knights. The screams of the knights echoed in the whole area as the shadows strangled their bodies. Clang! 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 The sounds of sword clashing echoed in the whole area. The one who's fighting here were Brianna, John, and Jane of the Gale group. Brianna, John, and Jane were fighting the knights of the Vedredo family. When they felt Soda's outburst of energy before they immediately went to help him, but on their way, a group of knights from Vedredo family blocked their way. It led to a battle between the three of them and the elite knights of the Vedredo family. They were rank C adventurers, so ordinary knights were no match to them. Banshee's cry. Jane shouted loudly and it echoed throughout the whole area. Her voice contained some mysterious voice that slows down the movements of the knights. Banshee's cry was a tier 1 spell that could slow down the target's movement speed by 20%. Damn. Be careful. This spell decreased our speed. The leader of the squad of these elite knights said to his comrades. Brianna charged forward and she waved her sword at the leader of the elite knights. Clang. Despite his movements being slowed down, the leader still managed to block her attack. Another one. Brianna didn't stop at one strike. She continued to attack the leader of the elite knights without hesitation. Clang. 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 The leader of the elite knights passively blocked her attacks. He couldn't do anything because of the debuffs that were cast on him and the other knights. Suddenly, Brianna's sword and John's dagger emitted a white glow. Both of them weren't surprised at this. They knew who's the one behind this, and that's their comrade Jane. Increased sharpness, and bleeding attack. Jane casted a spell that helped Brianna and John. She was a support-type mage, so most of her spells were buffs and debuffs which could increase her comrades' fighting ability or decrease their enemies' fighting ability. Burst slash. John disappeared and he reappeared on the back of the elite knight. A large cut appeared on the chest of the elite knight and it spurted out a large amount of blood. Stealth. John slowly blended in the surroundings as he used his combat arts. He was the scout of the Gale group, an expert scout that knew the essence of it and understood the meaning of his class. He knew his weakness and understood that he wasn't fit for close combat battles. He was better of finishing enemies with a sneak attack on their blind spot. Brianna was the main damage dealer of the Gale group. The combination of her sword and speed were fearsome. She was holding every elite knight here with Jane's support. That alone was enough to say that her power was slightly stronger than elite knights. While she was holding all the elite knights, John would sneak attack the knights that leave their guards open. It's the tactic of their group with just the three of them. If Tyder and Tim were here, then it would greatly change everything in this battle. Tyder was the tanker of the group, the shielder class that always took the front line in every battle. He experienced a lot of life and death situations that toughened up his body, while Tim was the burst-type mage of the Gale group. Unlike Jane, who only knew support spells, Tim knew different types of damage spells. or burst spell that could kill any opponents at his level with just a single combination of it. They were the true rank C adventurers, and if they were in a party, the strength they would show was stronger because of their combination, so they could defeat opponents that were higher level than them. Boom. Suddenly, the ground shook heavily like an earthquake hit the whole city. It stopped the Gale group and the elite knights from fighting because of the heavy tremor of the ground. They don't have any choice but to grab on something near them to balance their footing. The Gale group and the elite knights looked up and saw towering black tentacles from far away. Then a powerful wave of energy swept out coming from that direction, and it hit all of them. Swoosh. This? Bestseller? Jane recognized the energy that swept out in all directions. She felt the disturbance in her mana pool. Although it became weak because of the distance, she still felt it. Bestseller? Monster. Brianna glanced at Jane when she heard her mention the word Bestseller. She then looked at the direction of the huge tentacles and muttered, "Just what is happening there?" "Soda is in that direction," John whispered while looking at the towering tentacles. Not just them who felt and saw it, but also Tyler and Tim. Up to the gate of the city, they could clearly saw the emergence of the black tentacles that wiped out a part of that city. They saw how those tentacles smashed the huge buildings in that direction. Even at this distance, they felt a slight trembling of the ground. "Really? What's that?" Tyler muttered in disbelief while looking at the scene. That's Soda's spell," Tim said as he recognized the black tentacles. "But it somehow feels different." "Well, yeah, it's different. You can also see it, right? The size. It is larger than what he showed before," Tyler said to Tim as he emphasized the word size. "I know that. But I'm talking that it's not mana that he is using to cast that spell," Tim said with an annoyed expression. The city lord of the Greepine City was also watching this chaotic scene with his own eyes. "Report. What's happening there?" The city lord opened his mouth and asked. "Lord, an adventurer used monster potion according to our agent who saw it," a voice answered him from behind. This voice came from the city lord's assistant. "Monster potion? The recipe of that potion is gone, but sometimes a bunch of adventurers manage to acquire it in some dungeons or ruins," the city lord muttered in a low voice. "I've given Ursus 30 minutes to wrap this up. I will not intervene, and the damage that they created will be paid by Ursus. That's what he promised to me. Evacuate all the civilians and don't let any of them die. I don't want someone innocent to die in this incident," the city lord said. "Yes, my lord. The city guards are now evacuating the civilians from all the battlefields in the city," the assistant reported. "If this doesn't end in 30 minutes, then I'll personally stop this chaos," the city lord said. Soda was standing alone on the battlefield. He cancelled the shadow bind spell, and all the huge tentacles like shadows dissipated into thin air. He managed to kill all the knights of the Vedredo easily. They didn't expect this to happen at all, as they thought that they would be able to hold him, but the reality wasn't that fair to them. It's true that Soda received the best Ferrum from the potion that he drank, and everyone thought that he was as strong as a monster that formed their monster orb recently. But he was clearly stronger than them because of his spell. All the monster that they fought were just using their trait skills, and once they knew the monster's trait skills, they could create a plan to counter it, but Soda was using a spell. If a person used Best Ferrum to cast a spell, then the power of the spell would multiply by 3 because of the usage of the stronger energy. It means that all of Soda's spells were currently 3 times stronger. And the knights didn't expect this at all. Before they could think it through, Soda crushed them. Ugh. Blood flowed down from his mouth. Soda lifted up his hand and wiped the blood. "Even though I'm a monster, my body still couldn't handle the Best Ferrum," Soda thought as he felt a stinging pain all over his body. "Oof, I wonder what will happen if everyone knew that you will gain this power once you evolve to a higher life form." A playful voice sounded in Soda's mind. "You don't need to think about me. I will handle it when that time comes." Soda snorted, then he looked at Yuko. "Plus, I think that Yuko will evolve first before me." Oof, that's what's scary about you. You're not afraid of those stronger than you, and you don't care about them. It feels like you are sure that you will reach their level or even surpass them someday, the playful voice replied in his head. "Well, thanks for the compliment," Soda said in his mind, and he shook his head. "Oof, what a scary monster you are," the voice in his mind giggled. "It seems that you have a visitor." "Soda." A voice sounded behind Soda. Soda turned his head and looked behind him. He saw a person that he didn't expect that would appear here. "What are you doing here?" Soda asked. Lumilia was in a bad situation right now, as the Knights of Vedredo and Osfer's family were around her. They didn't even leave some space for her to escape. The Knights surround the whole inn and block the door. "Young miss, don't resist anymore. You will not gain anything from leaving the city," a young knight of the Osfer's family said to Lumilia. "So you're asking me to marry someone I didn't even know?" Lumilia replied in a loud voice. "I will not go back to the mansion no matter what happens." "Then, we will use force to bring you back," the young knight said to Lumilia. "Did my father order you that?" Lumilia asked as she narrowed her eyes. She glanced at the window and thought about what she should do to escape from these knights. The door was blocked by the knights and there were knights surrounding the inn from all directions. They basically cornered her. Also, the man that Sota kidnapped before was also in this room. He was still unconscious. Yes, we have no choice but to obey your father's order, the young knight said to Lumilia in an apologetic tone. I'm sorry too, Lumilia said before she casted a spell. Water serpent. A serpent made of water materialized and it blew the ceiling of the room. Boom. Lumilia jumped to the hole that she created on the ceiling of the room. Quick, catch young miss. The young knight shouted. They rushed inside the room and saw that it was covered in smoke. The young knight then saw the hole in the ceiling. Damn. The young miss escaped from the roof. Look out for her. Don't worry, the Lord is there, that's why I didn't position any of the knights there. The knight of the Vedredo family. By Lord, you mean? The young knight turned his head with widened eyes. Yes. The knight of the Vedredo family nodded. Tap. Lumilia landed on the roof and saw someone waiting for her on the roof. She saw a chubby man with short yellow hair and yellow color eyes. This man was none other than the head of the Vedredo family, Gregory Vedredo. Nice try, Lumilia, Gregory said with a smile. Why are you? Lumilia muttered in disbelief while looking at Gregory. She subconsciously took a step backward. Why I'm here? Of course, it's to prevent you from leaving this city. You're the fiancé of my son, after all, Gregory said as he placed his finger on his chin. Of course, there's that. I also want to see the face of that young man when his plan goes awry because of my appearance here. Gregory then shrugged his shoulder and said, he should be honored as a family head like me personally make a move just to stop his plan. He should be content about that. I'm in trouble right now. There's no way I could escape with him chasing after me. Lumilia thought as she tried to rack her brain to find a way to escape. Wait, Gregory said, and he placed his hand inside his pocket. He took out a piece of yellow paper. This paper was emitting a dim yellow light. What's wrong, Faud? Gregory asked. He talked to the person from the other side of the talisman while looking at Lumilia. After a while, they finished talking and Gregory placed back the talisman in his pocket. TSK. I miscalculated. To think that Brad have something like that. Faud and Aldine aren't enough to capture him. I should have brought Grinno instead of these trashes. Grinno could even kill a monster with a monster orb alone, Gregory said in an annoyed tone. He then took a deep breath and added, well, it doesn't even matter. Even if he have that power boost, he still couldn't match me with that strength. Lumilia listened to their conversation the whole time. Well, she couldn't avoid it as their voice was loud as if they were telling her to listen to them. So she clearly understood that Sota used some potion to boost his power to the next level. She also heard that her father has appeared before Sota. Really, this was getting more complicated and difficult. There was also the city guard. She was wondering what happened to the city guard, why they didn't appear until now. She didn't know that her father already talked to the city lord about this. While they were thinking some things, a burst of powerful energy interrupted them. It gathered everyone's attention. Boom. Suddenly, they heard a loud booming sound and it was followed by a small earthquake. What the hell? Gregory said in an annoyed tone as his brows tightened together as he turned his head and looked behind him. Lumilia looked at the distance where she heard the booming sound and saw the gigantic black tentacles that were larger than normal houses. She was on the rooftop so she could clearly see it, and also, thanks to the moonlight, she could see the black tentacles at night. That's Sota's spell? Lumilia murmured and she glanced at Gregory. She slowly took a step backward, but she found that her feet were frozen. In an instant, I didn't even saw him cast a spell. Lumilia thought as she tried to break free, but a sudden chill hit her body. Swoosh. The ice on her feet started to spread across her legs. She couldn't even move her body. So this is the power of the head of the Vedredo family. Lumilia thought as she gritted her teeth. I'm going to let you sleep for a while, Gregory said while still looking at the dissipating huge tentacles. He didn't even bother looking at Lumilia. Come here, take Lumilia and I'll take care of that brat. How dare he killed my subordinates. The knights of the Vedredo family one by one appeared on the rooftop of the inn. Handle her with care. She's my son's fiancée, Gregory said. Yes, my lord. The knights nodded their heads. Gregory felt the talisman in his pocket vibrated. He took it out and asked, what's wrong, Faud? What happened there? But the one who replied to him wasn't Faud at all. It was a completely different person. Hello, by Faud, you mean the knight. He already left and give this to me. A voice of an unfamiliar man sounded in the talisman. Who the hell are you? Gregory asked in an angry tone. His aura was leaking out of his body. He then recalled the only person that could steal the talisman from Faud in that place. Don't tell me you are. Ding dong. Correct. I'm Sota Ayashi, rank D adventurer at your service. Well, prepare yourself. I'm coming over there. Sota's voice sounded happy, but it slowly turned cold over the end. Ha ha ha. You're so funny, Gregory laughed when he heard Soda's words. Do you really think that you could defeat me with your power boost? I've already killed dozens of monsters that have monster orb on my own and you're weaker compared to them, so how are you going to defeat? I can't answer your question but well it will work out in the end, Soda said. While Gregory was talking to Soda, the knights approached Lumilia. They were going to capture her. Damn it. I couldn't move my body in this ice. Lumilia cursed inside her head as she couldn't even move her fingers in her current situation. Suddenly, a voice sounded in the whole area. Mila. Class rep. Lumilia heard those familiar voices and thought that she was hallucinating. The knights looked up and they saw a group of people in the air heading straight at them. Stop them. The knight shouted as he pointed at the group of people. But they were too late. Boom. The rooftop exploded as debris of rocks shot up in the air. Smoke and dust covered the whole area. Class rep, bear with it for a while. Lumilia heard a voice before a large amount of flames swallowed the rooftop including her. When the ice around her melted the flames immediately disappeared like nothing happened. Is this the only reason why you brought me here? No, we have to secure class rep first. Ah, that's too much trouble. You see the fat man before. That man is strong. I couldn't defeat him with my current strength. Lumilia heard the voice that felt like they were quarreling against each other. She couldn't see clearly because of the smoke but she remembered those voices. Brian, Randolph, stop talking and do your job properly. We need to get Mila first. A loud feminine voice stopped the two, and Lumilia was familiar with this voice. This voice was coming from her friend, Nio. Guys. Lumilia was about to say something when a powerful gust of wind swept out the smoke and dust. Gregory looked at the newly arrived people and said, I don't care who you are but I'll take care of you after I finish talking to the brat here. He was still talking to Soda through the talisman. Let's stop talking as we need to prevent this man. Randolph chuckled as he looked at Gregory who was looking down at them. I changed my mind, Gregory said in a cold tone while looking at Randolph. Then, he looked at Lumilia and added, I'm going to crush your hope. You think these people are enough to save you from me? You're wrong, I'll personally take care of you. Ho ho, someone's talking highly. Randolph laughed as he looked at Gregory. My knights, Gregory said in a loud voice. My lord. All the knights replied in unison. Capture all of them, Gregory commanded his knights. Yes, my lord. The knights replied when they heard the order of their lord. They bent their knees and jumped on the roofs of the houses around them. Swoosh. 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 All of them pulled out their swords and looked at Lumilia and the rest. They were ready to attack them at any time. Why are you here, guys? Lumilia asked as she turned her head and saw Nio, Brian, Randolph, Lynn, George, and CL.U.S.Ter. We're here to take you back, class rep. You know we couldn't properly plan the cultural festival without you. Brian replied to her with a smile on his face. That's right, Mila. We're here to help you. Nio and Lynn said to Lumilia with concern in their voice. How did you? Lumilia didn't manage to finish her sentence as Brian interrupted her. CL.U.S.Ter told me that you will never come back. So I asked why and she showed me a letter from your father. Brian said with a proud expression. Boy. Why are you proud of that? Nio said as she looked at Brian on the corner of her eyes. I see. Lumilia nodded as she glanced at CL.U.S.Ter. It seems that CL.U.S.Ter picked up the letter that she threw in the trash can. Still, she's glad that they came here because they were worried about her. But why did you bring CL.U.S.Ter? She said she wanted to come so I let her, Brian said as he shrugged his shoulder. Lynn and Nio didn't think that they would found their friend being cornered by the knights. They didn't know what happened but they knew that they have to save Mila from the knights. They came here to talk to Lumilia. They didn't expect any fight at all. Only Brian expected that to happen. In the end, Brian was right. Battles were everywhere in the city when they arrived here. All the students of the Mage Class 1B were here. When they arrived in the city, battles were already happening. They asked some people and found that Lumilia got kidnapped and the knights were trying to find her. But what they found here was the opposite. The knights were the real enemies and the rumors going around the city were all fakes. The students of the Mage Class 1B split up. The other students went to the other battlefields while Brian and the rest went here. Luckily they found Lumilia. You have the guts to talk in front of me, Gregory Vidrato. My knights attacked them, Gregory said in an arrogant tone while looking at them as if they were trash. Yes, my lord. The knights replied to Gregory before 5 knights stepped forward and charged towards Brian's group. Humph. Quit talking big. Randolph snorted and he waved his hand towards the 5 knights. White flash. A white light flashed brightly and it caused everyone in the vicinity to cover their eyes including Gregory. It was so bright that they couldn't see what's happening around them. Randolph then appeared in front of the defenseless 5 knights. These knights were covering their eyes from the white light. He opened his palm and a bluish energy blade appeared. Mana blade. Randolph grabbed the blade and swung it towards the 5 knights, but something happened. A wall of rock rose up from the ground and blocked his blade. Bang! TSK. As expected of that fat man, this skill isn't enough to stop him. Randolph clicked his tongue when he saw that his attack failed. Hey! Why did I come here? Randolph sighed and said to himself. He recalled that Brian asked him to come with him because they needed manpower. He came along because he was curious, and he also has nothing to do. The wall cracked and it turned into tiny pieces of rocks. It then shot towards Randolph with high speed. Why didn't that Brian ask Soda? I thought they are friends. Randolph thought as he moved his body swiftly and avoided all the rocks that were thrown at him. Suddenly, spikes burst out of the ground. It went straight at Randolph. Swoosh. 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 I thought that something interesting would happen here, but it just these dumb knights and noble. Well, it's true that this fat man is strong, but I wouldn't enjoy fighting him if he's this weak at his age. Randolph thought as he sliced all the spikes with his blade. He then jumped and saw 2 fireballs on his left and right side. Water blade. Randolph simply shot 2 blades made of water to his left and right side. Boom. Boom. The water and fire collided and mist spread in the whole area. Swoosh. I can't be helped. I'll let them this time around. Randolph thought as 2 knights appeared from both of his sides and one in the front. He slowly opened his mouth and said, Actually, I'm not a full-fledged mage. I'm an all-rounder. Randolph clenched his fist and shot a punch to the knight in front of him. 100 impact punch. His fist looked slow and it didn't even reach the knight. It hit the air, but it caused ripples in the air and it distorted the space. Boom. A loud booming sound echoed in the whole area and it shook the ground heavily. The 3 knights that were about to attack Randolph flew towards Gregory along with the force of the punch. Their bones were all broken and it would need a high-level healing spell to completely heal them. Gregory was surprised when he saw this, but he quickly regained his composure and casted a defensive spell. Ground barrier. Armor reinforcement. A barrier made of rocks formed around Gregory and it protected him from Randolph's attack. It covered him like a cocoon to protect him in all directions. Boom. The earth shook heavily as the attack landed on the barrier. The barrier crashed on the roof and the floors below it until it landed on the ground. Boom. The inn started to crack and it slowly fell, burying the Gregory on the ground floor of the inn. Inside the barrier, Gregory had a deep frown on his face. The barrier was too hard as Randolph's attack only made a dent on it. Even that powerful skill couldn't shatter Gregory's barrier. That man is stronger than I expected. The skill that he used is a high-level combat arts called 100 Impact Punch. To think I would see this kind of arts from a mere nobody like him. Gregory thought as he gritted his teeth. What's wrong? Did you have some problems there? Don't worry, I will come there and your problem will increase. A voice sounded through his talisman. The talisman was still connected to the other, so he still could hear Soda's voice from the other side. Problem? There's no problem here. Gregory snorted and he cut the connection of the talisman so that he couldn't hear Soda's annoying voice. Randolph observed it and he opened his mouth. He said, Get ready, he's coming. Lynn and Nio took Lumalia while George and Brian were going to protect them from any knights that attack them. Continue moving forward. We're going to stall them. George said. What stall? We're going to defeat them. Brian corrected George's words. Quit talking like that. You can't defeat him anyway, Randolph said with a smirk while looking at the 2. Boom. A powerful magical energy burst out beneath the debris of rocks. The rocks were thrown away and shot off in a distance. Randolph waved his hand and a barrier around him that protected him from the rocks. He squinted his eyes and saw Gregory was releasing a very large amount of mana which was visible to Naked's eyes. Oh, it looks like he's finally taking this seriously. Well, if it's me, you can't fight me without getting serious, or else you would suffer the consequences. Randolph looked at Gregory with an amused expression. I don't want to fight this man. I only fight those geniuses. I'm an artificial genius, after all. He thought. Lynn, Nio, CL.U.S.Tear, and Lumalia were moving forward, but something appeared before them. Boom. A wall of ice rose up from the ground, blocking their way. The wall continued to rise until it became a dome that covered the whole area. The place that it covered wasn't a small area but a large one that is 500 meters diameter. It covered the whole battlefield, and it means that everyone wouldn't be able to leave this place as long as the barrier was still there. Randolph, Brian, and George looked up at the ice that was covering the sky. Gregory and the knights also looked up at the dome. This spell, Father, Lumalia muttered while looking at the barrier. Chapter 137, Chain Quest, Randolph versus Gregory. A huge dome made of ice and it spans 500 meters diameter. Lumalia was familiar with this spell and the mana around it. Father, she muttered in a low voice and knew that they wouldn't be able to shatter this barrier that her father made. No one at their level has the power to break this high-level spell. Even if they worked together, they would only be able to put a dent on it. Even if they used the highest fire element spell that they knew, it was all futile. Scorching hands. Brian muttered and flames covered both of his hands. He then jumped in the air and threw a powerful punch on the barrier. Blazing punch. Boom. His punch was powerful, but Brian only managed to put a scratch on this enormous barrier. It's so hard, Brian said, and he saw his fists were bleeding. Lin and Nio were shocked when they saw that Brian's punch couldn't do anything on the enormous barrier. The mana flowing in this barrier is immense and tremendous, Lin said as she placed her palm on the barrier. She was always sensitive to energy, so she felt the vast magical power that formed this barrier. It was 2 times the amount of mana she has. She measured her mana pool before, and the result was that she has 352 mana in her mana pool. So 352 times 2 was equal to 704. That amount of mana was stored in this single spell. Actually, Ursus used less mana in casting this spell. It just because this spell was Ursus' inner spell that Lumilia felt that it was stronger than normal. How can we shatter this spell? Nio said. We can't, this is father's inner spell. An inner spell consumed less mana than a normal spell, so my father could cast this spell several times. Lumilia replied, and she shook her head. This was also the reason why all of Soda's tier 1 spell only need an amount that's less 10 mana except for the Shadow Bind spell. Of course, the players were included in it. Ha ha, feel despair. You wouldn't be able to escape. Gregory laughed while looking at them as if he was mocking them. We'll leave this place. Don't worry, class rep, all of Mage Class 1B are here to get you back, Brian said as he assured Lumilia. Yes, we're all leaving here. Lin nodded at Brian's words. Sister Lumilia. CL.U.S.Ter looked at Lumilia with a worried expression. Randolph looked at them and said, Are you sure about that? From what I can see, we have no chance to defeat this guy. Are you our comrades, right? So why are you saying that? Nio looked at Randolph and said, Well, I'm just stating the truth. It would be better if that Eugen guy joined us. Our chances would increase if he used that power, Randolph said as shrugged his shoulder. Eugen, Lumilia muttered and recalled her classmate that fought the top 3 ranker Yuriko in the special test. Yeah, that Eugen will be a great asset if he actively used his power. Randolph nodded at Lumilia, then he turned his head to Gregory. That guy? How strong he is? Brian became curious when he heard that Eugen have some sort of secret power. If he used his power, then he could defeat you instantly with your current power, Randolph replied to him. Really? I wanted to fight him. I will surely fight him next time, Brian said with an excited expression. Suddenly, a red light flashed in front of them and it followed by intense heat. Soon, they saw a sea of flames heading towards them. So he couldn't hold it anymore, Randolph muttered as he patted his shirt. Let me handle this. He took a step forward and all of his mana burst out of his body. Randolph slowly opened his mouth and said, If we're talking about the inner spell, then I too have an inner spell. Randolph lifted his right hand and a large amount of mana gathered on his palm. Decaying earth wave. Transparent ripples appeared in Randolph's hand. It spread out, and when it made contact with the flames disappeared. Even the ground started to have cracks and it eventually dried up. The buildings in front of Randolph fell down because all the things that made contact with the ripples will experience the strong corrosive power of the spell. That. A tier 3 spell. Gregory muttered when he saw the power of this spell. He was surprised when he found that this brat knew a tier 3 spell. Really? I didn't think that I would be forced to use tier 3 spell against these children. Gregory gritted his teeth and he casted his own tier 3 spell. Flame Cyclone. Flames appeared and it whirled around until it became a cyclone. Flames covered the entire sky and it shot towards the transparent ripples that Randolph casted. Boom. A huge explosion happened in the middle of the area that destroyed hundreds of houses inside the dome. The shockwave swept out and it ruins hundreds of houses until it hit the ice dome. Brian, George, Nio, Lin, and Lumilia casted a defensive spell to protect themselves from the explosion. Class rep, Brian shouted as he stood in front of CL.U.S.Ter. I know. Lumilia gritted her teeth and casted several defensive spells. Arg. That guy is too reckless. He said to leave it to him, but he caused this huge explosion. Nio endured the pain as the shockwaves destroyed the barrier that she created. We can't blame him. Randolph is the only one who could fight that man, Lin said with a helpless expression. It's really lucky that Randolph joined them in going to this city. She didn't expect this at all. All the students of Mage Class 1B were here except for Soda. She heard from Brian that Soda was working as an adventurer, so he should be doing some quest right now. Boom. Smoke and dust covered the whole place and it leaves nothing. It blocked everyone's sight so they couldn't properly see what's in front of them. The place inside the dome was in ruins. All the houses were gone and the debris was scattered all over the place. Luckily, there's no civilian in this place. Ursus wouldn't cast the Ice Dome spell if there were some civilians left in this area. There's no safe place in kind of explosion. In fact, the Ice Dome helped contain the explosion, or else the shockwave would do more damage in the city. Cough. Cough. Lumilia coughed as she found herself lying on the ground. She covered her nose and looked around her. Ugh. She coughed a mouthful of blood. The red blood splattered on the ground. She then noticed that someone moved from the corner of her eyes. Who's that? She squinted her eyes as she couldn't clearly see because of the thick smoke, but she saw a silhouette of a little girl. CL.U.S.Tear. Lumilia immediately pushed her body out of the ground. She went towards the silhouette and found that it was really CL.U.S.Tear. CL.U.S.Tear was unconscious, but her body was twitching nonstop. Lumilia didn't know what to do, so she casted some healing spell, but it didn't work at all. Let me. A voice of a man sounded behind her. Lumilia didn't even need to turn her head to know who's this person. Randolph walked towards with injuries all over his body. You're injured, Lumilia said while looking at his figure. Don't worry about this. This is nothing to me, Randolph said, and he placed his palm on CL.U.S.Tear's forehead. Calm heart. Slowly, CL.U.S.Tear's body stopped twitching. Lumilia sighed in relief when she saw this. She recalled that the one who saved all of them was CL.U.S.Tear. When all of the barriers that they casted shattered and they were thrown on the ground along with the houses, CL.U.S.Tear showed strange movements. Damn. It's too strong, Brian shouted, and he was swept out. His body flew away and crashed on the dome. I'm sorry, Mila. Lynn gritted her teeth and her barrier broke before she was smashed on the dome. It was followed by Lumilia, George, and Nio. All of them couldn't do anything against this. They were the nearest to the collision, so they really felt the powerful impact of the two Tier 3 spells. Bang. 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 At that time, CL.U.S.Tear was left standing alone. The shockwaves, flames, and the powerful winds couldn't reach her body at all. CL.U.S.Tear's eyes were lifeless. She opened her mouth and said in a monotonic voice, calculating, the magic and power. After a few seconds, she waved her hands and said, protect. A bluish barrier formed around them and it protected them from any harm. Lumilia has a lot of questions in her mind, but since CL.U.S.Tear was unconscious, she could only swallow it. Thank you, Lumilia muttered in a low voice. She then lifted up her head and looked at Randolph. Is everyone okay? For the meantime, Randolph replied with a smile on his face. Everyone is safe for now. Randolph paused for a moment, then he added, you're all quite lucky that you survived from the impact despite how close you are from the collision of the two Tier 3 spells. Yeah. Lumilia knew that it wasn't luck. That powerful impact would kill them. If not, they would receive heavy injuries that could be healed by a Tier 3 healing spell. If not for CL.U.S.Tear, they wouldn't survive with little injuries. So this was the reason why Soda was interested in CL.U.S.Tear's origin. She has a mysterious power that was hard to explain. I'll tell you that I couldn't cast another spell. I used all of my mana, Randolph said to Lumilia while looking around. That Tier 3 spell consumed most of his mana. Although that spell was his inner spell, he still consumed most of his mana in his mana pool. His mana pool wasn't as vast as those veterans. He was just a first-year student and have a lot of room for development. Really, this feeling is irritating, Randolph commented as he felt a little dizzy. This was the side effect of draining all of his mana in his mana pool. With this, he would be at a disadvantage if he fought the fat man. Well, he was at a disadvantage from the very beginning. That fat man was clearly a higher level than them. Swoosh. The wind blew strongly and the thick smoke that was blocking everyone's vision slowly disappeared. They finally get to see what happened around them and how badly the impact damages the whole area in the ice dome. Lumilia looked around and she saw Brian, Lynn, Nio, and George lying on the ground. It hurts so much, Brian said in a loud voice as he grabbed his broken right arm. His arm broke when he crashed on the dome before. It's hard to move, George said as he used every fiber of his muscles to sat on the ground. I'm sorry, George, you're injured because of us. Nio apologized to George. She sat on the ground and looked at George, who has injuries all over his body. It's okay. George shook his head. He protected Lynn and Nio when the flames swallowed everything. Everyone, do you really think that we would be able to escape from this barrier? Randolph looked at them and asked, I'm sorry everyone, it's all my fault. Lumilia apologized to everyone and she lowered her head in front of them. I'm an all-rounder and I could protect myself even without using mana, but I don't think I could handle it if I have to protect all of them. Randolph thought and he glanced at Brian. Really, I didn't expect that we're fighting a veteran. You shouldn't do that. As the one who bears the name Osfair shouldn't easily bow her head in front of everyone. Suddenly, a voice sounded and it gathered everyone's attention. Lumilia and the rest turned their heads and saw Gregory was looking down on them. Gregory shifted his eyes on Randolph and said, you're one dangerous fella. Because of you, I've lost my knights. In the collision of the two Tier 3 spells, Gregory didn't protect his knights, so most of his knights died in the impact of the powerful spells. Those who survived were in critical condition that they would die if someone didn't help them. The knights of the Vedredo family didn't have CL.U.S.Tear to protect them, so their fate was sealed when the two powerful spells clashed. They were also close to the collision, so there's no doubt about it that most of them died. Randolph looked at Gregory with a frown on his face. He was observing Gregory's facial expression. Do you really think I couldn't counter a Tier 3 spell? I'm not the head of the Vedredo family for nothing. Gregory mocked Randolph. He then smiled and added, but well, you're pretty impressive for someone at your age. Unfortunately, you fought against me. Of course, I'm outstanding and you don't have to tell me that. Randolph smirked as he shrugged his shoulder. He then planed his hand on his left ear. Can you kill this man? He said in his mind. Yes, master. But you don't have to worry about it, your classmates are heading in that direction. A small voice replied to Randolph's question. My classmates? I don't think they have the power to stop this man. Randolph said in his mind with a confused expression. You and Droon, the one who held the lost power, and Sota Ayeshi who currently have best Ferrum in his body. The voice answered Randolph. Oh? That Sota Ayeshi is here? Randolph was surprised when he heard Sota's name. Yes. Then, you don't need to move. With the combination of those two, they could handle this man. Randolph couldn't help but grin when he thought the combined power of Sota and Eugen. Oi. Did I say anything funny? Gregory frowned when he saw Randolph smirked. Nothing. Randolph shook his head. How did that Sota have the best Ferrum? He asked in his mind. The voice explained how Sota get the power of the monster and Randolph understood it. You all are pissing me off, Gregory said in a loud voice and his magical power exploded. Boom. His magical power pressured everyone in the vicinity. The atmosphere felt suffocating for the people who don't have much strength left in their bodies. I'm going to take you and you will marry my son, Gregory said while looking at Lumilia. He took a step forward and slowly approached Lumilia. According to his plan, his family would be tied together to the Osvers family and he would get a piece of that Crydal flame honey. Then, he would help the Osvers family fend of the other family and the nobles from the Malosa country. Maybe, he will receive another crystal flame honey from Ursus if he did great. Why can't you understand that it's all for your family and your own good? I will help you fend off those nobles from Malosa country. It's all for your own good, Gregory said while looking at Lumilia. You're saying that it's for her own good. If you really want to help her then you can do that without having her marry your son. I bet you just want something from her, Brian said as he tried his best to stand up and looked at Gregory. Yeah, Brian is right. Why can't Mila decide things on her own? It's her life so you don't have the right to force her, Lynn said as she looked at Gregory. Let's just face the reality that all of you couldn't do anything to me. Gregory frowned and he waved his hand. Brian and Lynn were pushed back heavily and both of them once again crashed on the dome. Bang. Bang. Ah. We're taking Mila back. Nio rushed towards Gregory. Swoosh. It's futile. Gregory simply waved his hand and Nio crashed on the dome just like Lynn and Brian. He then looked at Randolph and asked, Are you going to attack me like them? Nope. Randolph shook his head and smirked. He waiting to watch the show that's going to unfold. He knew who's going to arrive, so he was quite excited to see this. Really, I'm really glad that I come here. He thought as his grin widened. The amusing things will happen in just a minute. I wonder, what face will you make when you experience defeat from someone several years younger than you? He thought while looking at Gregory. Gregory started to advance towards Lumilia. Every step that he made rung inside Lumilia's head. Lumilia tightened her grip on the unconscious CL.U.S.Tear. She then recalled what Sota said before. You don't have power but you have me. If you have any problems just ask me and I will do everything. His voice sounded in her mind. I'm not going to marry your son. Lumilia stuttered at first but her voice became louder at the end. Huh? What are you saying? Gregory stopped on his track and looked at Lumilia. I don't want to marry your son. I don't want to be bound by my family. Lumilia stopped for a moment and she added, I'm going to make a decision for myself for the very first time. I'm going back to Ladros City. I'm going to join the cultural festival with everyone. I want to continue studying and get stronger. So, she took a deep breath and shouted, Please help me. Suta, you're still Gregory was saying something when he heard a familiar voice. Good job. A voice of a man sounded. Gregory looked up as he heard the voice came from above. At last, they are here. Randolph grinned widely. Boom. 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 Several figures crashed on the ground creating small craters and causing the dust and smoke to form around. Lumilia lifted her hand to cover her eyes. She used her free hand to embrace CL.U.S.Tear in her chest. Swoosh. The wind blew strongly and the smoke started to disappear. Sota. Lumilia looked up and saw Sota. In front of her were her classmates. Not only Soda, but everyone from the Mage Class 1B was here. All Ursus did was casting the Tier 3 spell, Ice Dome. After that, he didn't provide any assistance to Gregory in capturing his daughter. It's because someone appeared before him. He was standing on the rooftop of a tall building while looking at the dome of ice that he created, and opposite of him was a man. The legendary man and the one who was entitled hero was standing in front of him. You know that it's my family's affair, so why are you here of all people? Ursus asked the man in front of him. The man in front of Ursus was a tall man with an average build. He has short messy blonde hair and yellow eyes. He was wearing a navy blue coat on top of a white shirt and wearing pants with the same color of his shirt. He was the one who was called the Flame Master, Bargain Heavifield, one of the most powerful people in the Ladro Institute and a man who was acknowledged as the hero of the Malosa War. I'm not here to fight. I'm just here to protect my students in case something happened to them, Bargain said as he sat down and looked at the dome. Yeah, you've made quite a scene, casting a Tier 3 spell in the middle of the city. Did you talk to the city lord about this? You wouldn't cast this spell in the middle of the city without the city lord's permission at all. By students, do you mean the top students? Ursus asked while looking at Bargain. I wonder about that. Bargain replied to him leisurely. My daughter is not a top student, so I know that. Her power isn't that great, so the Institute would send a person like you just to protect her. The Institute also wouldn't gain anything from her, Ursus said to Bargain. It didn't really matter if Bargain was showing that relaxed attitude in front of him. He knew that even if there were a dozen of him, he still wouldn't be able to defeat Bargain. He guessed that he needed 30 of his power level before he could fight Bargain, and that's only fighting him on equal ground, not defeating Bargain. To defeat him, he needed 50 of his power level, but only 2 would survive at that battle. That's how powerful the Flame Master. Whoa, you're saying bad things to your daughter. Bargain looked at Ursus with a smile on his face. He then added, the Institute is not protecting her for you. The Institute decided to protect her because it wanted to get a good impression on the students with the potential to reach the top. By that, you mean that Soda? Ursus understood what Bargain mean. Yes, since Soda is serious about taking Lumilia back to the Institute responded by helping him so that he would get a good impression of the Institute. You could say that we're investing, Bargain explained to him. Also, Soda is not the only student that have potential here. Actually, 4 of them are present here that have the potential to surpass me, including Soda. I see. So that's the reason why. Those 4 students appeared here to get my daughter back to the Institute. That's why the Institute sent you here. Ursus understood all of it. You're correct. I'm here to protect them. By protect, I mean it as protecting them from dying, not babysitting them. Bargain paused for a moment before he continued. I will only prevent them from dying. Even if they lost their battles, it's okay. They needed it to grow stronger. Suddenly, both of them stopped as they felt something inside the dome. Bargain squinted his eyes and his senses passed through the ice dome. He muttered, Tier 3 spell. Not just him, Ursus felt it too. The power of the Tier 3 spells inside the dome. Both of them felt the collision of the 2 Tier 3 spells. Bargain lifted up his hand and he gathered his magical power on it. He then made a grabbing motion, but he stopped midway. Interesting, Bargain smirked when he felt what happened inside the dome. He knew that something protected the students in his place. Really, the students of Ladro Institute are incomparable. To think that he even knew a Tier 3 spell. Ursus said, that's not really the case. They are special and I'm sure you will understand it someday, Bargain replied to him. As Soda, Lumilia looked up and saw Soda in front of her. Her other classmates were here, but she focused her attention on Soda. Good job. You've followed my advice, so you don't need to worry about it. Leave everything to me and I will handle this. Soda turned his head at Lumilia and said. He then looked at Eugen, Alice, and his other classmates including the Gale group, and said, I'll handle this. Go help Lumilia and the others. Are you sure? Alice looked at him and asked. Yeah, I'm sure. I will defeat this guy. Soda nodded and he looked at Gregory. I understand. Alice nodded at him, then she walked towards Lumilia. Eugen also nodded at him and didn't say anything. Their other classmates went to help Brian, Lynn, Nio, and George. The Brianna, Tim, and Jane too helped the injured ones. Before coming here, Soda helped them first, but they saw the huge explosion, so Soda used the beast Ferrum in protecting all of them. As Soda, Lynn muttered when she saw Soda's back in front of Lumilia. She then looked at Lumilia, who was looking at Soda's back. She recalled what Lumilia said when before Soda and the rest appeared here. I see, she said in a low voice and looked at her hands. I wonder if Soda will save me if something happened to me. She thought, oh? So he wanted to fight him alone? Randolph was amused at Soda's decision. He didn't think that Soda would win at Gregory even with the power of Best Ferrum. Best Ferrum wasn't enough to defeat Gregory, but if that Eugen joined the battle and used the lost power, then there's no doubt that they would win. But if Soda has something in his sleeve that could replace Eugen, then he would be fine in fighting Gregory alone. I can't wait to see what you will show. Randolph thought with a smirk on his face. He could see the best ferrum flowing out of Soda's body non-stop. Of course, it would flow out as Soda didn't have the monster orb to contain the best ferrum. It will continue to flow out until he runs out of energy and drained himself. Soda looked at the system while taking out 2 bottles of mana potion. He drank it and felt a burning sensation inside his body as the mana was turning into best ferrum. Lumalia's special quest triggered. Boss, fight and defeat Gregory, who is preventing Lumalia from leaving the city. Rewards, 50,000 exp, 15 free attribute points, and 10 skill points. He triggered this special quest when Lumalia asked him to help her. In this special quest, Soda just needed to defeat Gregory. The rewards were amazing. To think that he would receive so much quest from Lumalia. Ever since the incident at Desolate Woods, he was always triggering quest from her. You're really my lucky star, class rep. Soda grinned and said, EA. Lumalia was surprised when she heard Soda's words. Alice too was surprised when she heard Soda's words. She took a glance at his back. I can't believe this. You choose them instead of my L.U.S. True family, Gregory said with a hint of anger in his voice. He looked at Lumalia and didn't understand why she chose these people over his family. Soda stepped forward and closed his eyes. After a few seconds, he opened his eyes, and a smile formed on his face. Sure, that's not a bad deal, he said in a low voice, and he focused his attention on Gregory. Since Soda was going to fight, everyone brought the injured people away because they don't want to get caught in the aftershock of the battles. Rejoice, Gregory. Soda pulled out the Vajra sword Xianxia and stabbed it on the ground. He looked at his system and saw that he had 85 free attribute points. He added 50 of this to increase his intelligence attribute. Increasing his intelligence attribute means that his mana would increase. He then allocated the remaining 35 to his vitality, so that his body would be able to handle the best ferrum. With his current condition, he would collapse after a few minutes. Now, I can finally take you on, Soda said to Gregory with a serious expression. Boom. His aura increased drastically to the point that it matches Gregory's aura. The Vajra sword emitted a dark red color aura and it coated the entire sword. The dark red aura spread out and Soda absorbed it in his body. Xianxia, let me borrow your power? The Vajra sword Xianxia emitted a dark red energy. The energy spread on the ground beneath Soda's feet. Boom. Soda's aura skyrocketed and it reached the level of Gregory. He was using the Vajra sword Xianxia's ultimate skill, the possession, that he hadn't tried before. This was the first time he was using this skill ever since he acquired the Vajra sword. Soda's pupils turned into red color and his body slowly absorbed the energy that the sword was emitting. What's this? Gregory subconsciously took a step backward when he felt Soda's energy reach his level. Have you forgotten who am I? Soda said, and he slowly lifted up his hand. The sword trembled and it slowly changed form. The simple one-edged blade became a blade that has an exquisite design. The handle didn't change as it still looks the one that came from katana, but it only has a black orb on the pommel of the handle. There's a white long cloth that was attached to the black orb. Then, a huge upper body of a woman materialized behind Soda. The body was red in color and it has one pair of horns sticking out on the side of her head. The woman didn't have eyes, but she has a nose and mouth. Her mouth seemed to be laughing at everyone and her whole body was semi-transparent. It was the corporeal body of the red woman inside the Vajra sword. Everyone took a step backward when they saw this scene. This scene of the red woman behind Soda was giving them some creepy feelings. They couldn't help but felt goosebumps from seeing this. Alice and Lynn looked at this in daze. They were the closest to Soda, so they felt the rise of his aura and this strange phenomenon that was happening right now. Alice then regained her composure and she quickly took Lynn away. She knew that this place was going to become the battlefield for Soda and Gregory. Let's get out of here, Alice said as she carried Lynn in her arms. What's that? Lynn asked while looking at Soda. I don't know. Alice shook her head. Swoosh. Swoosh. After the next moment, the red woman shrunk down to normal body size. She opened her arms and hugged Soda from behind. Then, her figure fused with Soda's body. I thought class rep said it to you. Soda grabbed the handle of the sword and slowly pulled it out. He lifted up his other hand and bit his thumb. Then, he placed his thumb on the red blade of the sword and rubbed his blood on the blade by drawing a line on it. Oofufu, contract complete. A playful voice sounded in Soda's mind. Xing. I'm going to show you what it means to take me, Soda Ayeshi, with his dark great weapon. Soda then raised the sword above his head and the sword exerted a powerful force. Om. It caused a dark red ripple in the air and the ice dome collapsed. It broke like a fragile glass from the top and every tiny piece of it sprinkled down. The ice dome reached its limit after it contained the power of the 2 tier 3 spells. It collapsed as soon as some powerful energy made contact with it. Impossible. A mere student, wielding a national level weapon? Gregory was alarmed. He was now losing his composure as he felt that Soda's power really reached his level. No, Soda was even stronger than him right now. I've never heard such a thing. He tried to deny what Soda said just now. He was in a state where he would lose his sanity at any moment. Of course, up until now, I didn't meet a worthy opponent to use the full power of this sword, Soda said, and he pointed his sword at Gregory. The Vajra sword, Xianxia. Soda paused for a moment before he continued. The sacred sword of the ancient Vajra race that annihilated countless demons in the war 20,000 years ago. Ufufu, you're lying. Do you want me to tell you about my origin? Xianxia laughed in his mind. You. Why must you get in my way? Gregory shouted as he charged towards Soda. I don't know, it's just that you're in the way of my quest, Soda said, and he charged towards Gregory. Swoosh. In an instant, he appeared in front of Gregory. He then swung his sword, but Gregory saw this and managed to avoid getting slashed. Gregory then took a distance away from Soda before picking up any random sword on the ground. He coated his sword using his mana to strengthen it so that he could exchange blows with Soda. Soda chased Gregory and he didn't let him escape this place. He thrust his sword forward. Swoosh. Gregory reacted quickly and blocked his thrust using his sword. His sword cracked from that collision. There's no way that an ordinary blue-grade sword would last long against the dark-grade sword that released its power. At best, a normal blue-grade sword wouldn't last longer than 5 strikes. Since Gregory was strengthening it using his mana, it would last longer than 5 strikes. Clang. 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 Soda continued to slash his sword at Gregory, while Gregory could only passively defend himself from Soda. Soda didn't even give him a chance to attack as he would shatter Gregory's sword. Once Soda shattered Gregory's sword, Gregory would back down and picked another sword. Gregory jumped back and lifted up his hand above his head. He opened his palm and casted a powerful Tier 3 spell. Downfall Flaming Rocks. A huge magic circle appeared in the sky. It emitted a dense magical aura, and after a few seconds, hundreds of flaming rocks emerged from the magic circle. The rocks fell down with powerful momentum. Soda ignored those flaming rocks on the sky as he charged towards Gregory. He then used Crimson Moon skill. A dark red light flew out of his sword and it went directly towards Gregory. Swoosh. Gregory knew that he couldn't avoid it in time, so he chose to block the skill with his sword. Bang. Arg. Gregory couldn't completely block the skill using a blue-grade weapon. His sword broke and the red light flashed on his right arm. He then felt something wrong with that skill. The red energy was seeping inside his body. What the hell? He realized that this energy was corrupting his mana pool. He quickly circulated his mana and expelled the red energy out of his body. With the level of his control over his mana, he could expel the red energy, unlike Madan who didn't notice it until the last minute. But he still lost a little bit of control over his mana even though he managed to expel the red energy out of his body. Damn, that brat. Gregory cursed angrily. He looked at Soda with intense rage. The flaming rocks were just above the two. Swoosh. 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 Soda casted Shadow Bind, and hundreds of towering tentacles like shadows rose up from the ground. Although the Shadow Bind spell was powerful, it's still a Tier 1 spell, so it wasn't a match of a Tier 3 spell of Gregory. If you want to make Crimson Moon and Cross Moon stronger, just used Best Ferrum and my energy along with it. Don't just randomly use the skill as you fit. There's a proper way to use every skill in the world. A feminine voice sounded in Soda's mind. Soda nodded his head and he looked up above him. The tentacles like shadows were getting destroyed by the falling flaming rocks above him. He gripped his sword tightly and dashed towards Gregory. Swoosh. You still want to fight? Gregory gritted his teeth when he saw Soda rushed at him. If I only brought my armor and powerful knights here, you people wouldn't have a chance to win. Soda swung his sword, which was coated with dark red aura. Swoosh. Gregory jumped away quickly and managed to avoid getting slashed by Soda, but Soda chased after him without hesitation. Soda charged toward Gregory and thrust his sword forward. He used Stab skill along with it. Swoosh. Gregory once again jumped backward to avoid Soda's sword, but he was wrong to do that. The Stab combat arts was already at level 4, so it has a range of 5 meters. Also, the piercing effect of this skill was quite high. Added with Soda's boosted strength, it pierced Gregory's shoulder. Blood spurted out of his wounds. Gregory could avoid getting hit if he moved his body sideways. Arg. Gregory groaned in pain as he looked at Soda with rage in his eyes. Soda took a deep breath and he continued to clash against Gregory. His body couldn't handle the Best Ferrum and the Vajra sword Xianxia's power at the same time. Plus, he found that the percentage added of the possession could be increased. A normal possession skill could increase his overall abilities by 50%. He knew that the 50% increase of his abilities wasn't enough to defeat Gregory, so Xianxia offered him a deal to greatly increase his powers more than the added 50%.